Hello everyone, I welcome you back to another important lecture. And for today's class, we will look on towards some of the past paper questions from your chapter number 2, which goes with the title of Organization of an Organism. And over there, you may have looked on toward the specialized cell in the human body, and that is the red blood cell. And we will try to see that how come the questions they have appeared from this topic in your recent past papers. So if we just look on to question number one, he asks us that we have got this hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is a protein, and that is made inside the developing red blood cells, and that too in the bone marrow. So if you were to recall, we know it very well that these red blood cells, they are the specialized cells, and they appear as a biconcave discs. And in order for the red blood cells to be binding with the oxygen gas, so they have got the packaging of a protein in them, and that is hemoglobin with us. Now, if we say that the red blood cells they have the hemoglobin protein, so the idea is very clear that if I have to make this protein, so I need to combine the amino acids together, and they would make the polypeptide chains, and that would further fold up to be making this hemoglobin protein with us. So he has given you three parts, and for the first A part, he says as or he asks as that you are required to state him the function of the hemoglobin. And so the protein hemoglobin within the red blood cells, you could say as that it would transport the oxygen gas. You can also write an alternative point for that, that the role of hemoglobin is not only the transport, but it would also be binding with the oxygen gas within the alveoli of our lungs. In the second part, he asks us that name the small molecules that are combined to make the hemoglobin. So, owing to the fact that this hemoglobin is a protein, so I am required to be linking the amino acids together. And as I mentioned earlier, we would make the polypeptide chains, and finally, we would end up making this hemoglobin protein. Further, he says as that name the mineral ion which is provided in the diet, which is needed to make the hemoglobin. So, since we have to focus on the word mineral ion, so the mineral ion that is available within the hemoglobin, this is iron with us. Now, if we just move on toward the next question that appeared in the May-June of 2022, this was variant 4.3, and it was question number 2, AB part that came from the red blood cells. Here they say is that the red blood cells they contain the protein which is hemoglobin, and they are asking you to state the name of the four chemical elements. You don't have to be writing the symbols, you have to write the name of four chemical elements that are found in the protein. So we know that the proteins they have carbon, they have hydrogen, they have oxygen, and in addition to these three elements, they also have got the nitrogen in them. For another 1 mark, they ask you to state the role of hemoglobin. So you would say that the hemoglobin that we have got within the red blood cells, this transports oxygen gas, or either you could say that they bind with oxygen gas. If we move toward the part B, and in the part B, they have given you a figure, and this is figure 2.1. And they have shown you the photomicrograph of the cells, and these cells they are the red blood cells, and they have come from the person who is suffering with the sickle cell anemia. And we know that the red blood cells they are the biconcave discs, and that biconcave discs is only possible if the person they have got the normal allele for the hemoglobin protein, and that is HbA. But due to some mutations that the examiner is mentioning here, that some mutation has occurred for the gene that determines the hemoglobin protein, so that would be HbS. And when the allele is HbS, then the red blood cells they happen to look like sickle shape. So these are the abnormal red blood cells. And if the allele is HbA, so the red blood cells they would appear as the biconcave discs that we have got here. Now for the 2 marks, they are asking your suggestion that how the shape of abnormal red blood cell, which they have shown in figure 2.1, this would affect the blood flow. Now we know this fact that we have got the arteries. These arteries they would divide into the arterioles. Then we would have got these miniature blood vessels. They are the blood capillaries. Then moving onward, we have the venules, and then here there would be coming up of the veins with us. At the level of the blood capillaries, we have got the cells, and these cells, they are in the need of the oxygen gas to be carrying out the aerobic respiration. So if I would have the normal red blood cell, which is a biconcave disc, so this biconcave disc, it would move smoothly within the blood capillaries. But due to the mutation that has happened, if the red blood cell would become a biconcave disc, so you could say is that they have got the tapering or the pointed ends, so they would get trapped here. And if they would get trapped here, then ultimately it would not only block the blood flow, but at the same time, this would enhance the clotting process. So for the 2 mark, you would say that if the red blood cells are sickle shaped, okay, and if they are not biconcave discs, so they would stuck in the blood capillaries, and by that they would increase the chance of blood clotting. And when these abnormal red blood cells, when they are bringing about a blockage in the blood capillaries, so for sure the flow of the blood would be minimized. I hope you may have got some of the idea that how come the questions they can appear from this specialized cells, which is red blood cell with us. If you want to have a complete knowledge of this topic, organization of an organism, you can go to my other playlist where you will see all the questions for the past 10 to 12 years.